Do the Moohootoo survive the rock avalanche?
The ground began to shake and tremble as the sound only the gods make when angry could be heard getting louder and louder.
First save is a critical success, with another success, followed by a critical failure, after which is another success. And lastly, another Moohootoo gets crushed underneath the rampaging stone bringer of death. This ends the sneak attack round, to which all combatants will now roll for initiative. The PCs and the Moohootoo each roll for their initiative, with one roll representing 3 surviving Moohootoo, and the PCs rolling individually. They will be adding any bonuses or penalties from their agility modifiers to their roll for an adjusted result. Maz, winning initiative, acts first. She charges 30 feet forward from hiding, launching her spear 10 feet at the Moohootoo closest to her. Maz has a standard range of 10 feet throwing her spear, and she will have to apply her agility penalty of -1 to her attack roll. And with a roll of 8-1, she misses her target. Ree is up next in initiative order. He makes a spot check for a throwing stone somewhere at his feet. This is an intelligence-based check, which Ree has no bonuses or penalties he will apply to his roll from his intelligence modifier. The dice challenge for this roll will be 5. And with the result of 12, he finds the perfect stone to pick up and throw. Ree's range with throwing a stone is 10 feet, with every 10 feet increase in range, decreasing his action die number by 1. Since the closest Moohootoo is 15 feet away, we'll round up and Ree loses his action dice place on the dice chain. So normally, Ree uses a d20 to roll to hit. However, since he's throwing further than he's used to, he will roll a d16 instead, applying his -1 penalty from his agility modifier in hopes to beat the Moohootoo's 10 AC. And with a roll of 16 -1, Ree launches a rock at the side of a Moohootoo's head. And with a roll of 4, max damage kills the Moohootoo instantly.
With a great heave, Ree hurled Death Stone at the Moohootoo, striking him in the temple, killing him instantly.
Hera begins next in initiative order. The mutant huntress leaps out from behind the large rock and launches her spear at the closest Moohootoo. Looking on Hera's character sheet, we see she has no bonuses or penalties when initiating a missile attack. And with a natural 20, that is a critical success! Since Hera rolled a natural 20 critical success, as a 0-level hero, she gets to roll a 1d4 on the crit table to see what special effect takes place. And with a roll of 4, Hera launches her spear at the Moohootoo, making a direct hit to his kneecaps, dealing 1d4 points of damage and leaving the Moohootoo crippled if he survives. And with the result of 2, the Moohootoo survives the deadly blow, but now suffers a critical -10 feet movement.
Hera, the human huntress, launched her spear with deadly accuracy, piercing the rival tribe mutant in the kneecap, leaving her opponent devastatingly handicapped.
Ela, the mutant gatherer, is up next in initiative order. She moves up her 30 feet movement rate and uses her bow to finish off the badly wounded Moohootoo. On Ela's character sheet, she has a -1 penalty on ranged missile attacks from her agility modifier. She will roll a d20 -1 and hope to beat the Moohootoo's armor class of 10. And with an unfortunate roll of a 4 -1, Ela fails to beat the Moohootoo's armor class of 10. The last 2 remaining Moohootoos are up next. On their creature sheet, we see they have a special ability, Nibble Blast. Since the male Moohootoo have the ability to spray a pheromone using their nipples, they can turn that into a devastating blind attack that affects every creature in a 10-foot radius for 1d4 rounds. Only a reflex save, DC of 12, can dodge this effect. The injured Moohootoo, in a last-ditch effort to get away, moves 20 feet since his maximum movement dropped minus 10 feet, and sprays his nipple blast. Since Hera, Maz, and Ela are all within 10-foot radius of the Moohootoo, they all must now make a reflex save of 12 or better. Hera will roll first. On her character sheet, she has no bonuses or penalties on her reflex, so she'll roll normally. And with an amazing roll of 13, she just barely makes the save. Next up is Maz. On her character sheet, she has a -1 penalty on reflex saves. But with a 19 -1, she slays the 12 dice challenge and is unaffected. And finally, Ela is up next to make her reflex save. On her character sheet, she too has a -1 penalty on her reflex saves. And with a 14 -1, each of the warrior seekers have successfully passed their reflex saves. The second Moohootoo is up next. He decides to throw his spear at one of the two seekers who pushed the boulder down. To decide this, we will roll a 1d6 to represent either Moo or Ree. Moo will be represented by a 1, 2, or 3, and Ree will be represented by a 4, 5, or 6. And a roll of 4 means Ree is the target for the Moohootoo's spear toss. The Moohootoo has a range increment of 10 feet, and he will be throwing his spear 20 feet, which drops his action dice by 1 the same way Ree's was earlier. The Moohootoo gets a +1 when using his spear as a missile attack. The Moohootoo will roll a d16 and hope to beat Ree's armor class of 10. Oh no! A roll of 15 +1 strikes Ree! The Moohootoo will roll a d5 for damage. And with 1 point of damage dealt to Ree, he manages to survive the strike.
The Moohootoo were expert spear chuckers, and Ree became the unfortunate example of their prowess as he was pierced by a flying spear into the side.
That marks the end of the Moohootoo's turn. Lastly, in initiative order, Moo takes her turn to act. Moo has her flint dagger that she is going to attempt to throw at an attacking Moohootoo. Her range increment is also 10 feet. Since the Moohootoo is 25 feet from her, we will round up to 30 feet, bringing her 2 10-foot increments, dropping her action on the dice chain by 2. She gains a +1 on missile attacks, so she will roll a d14 +1 to beat the Moohootoo's armor class of 10. And with a result of 7 +1, Moo fails to hit her target, and she loses her dagger. Maz begins at the top of round 2. Since she threw her spear in round 1, Maz is going to attack next with her bone club. She hits her target with a 12, beating their AC of 10. Dealing a deadly 5 points of damage, reducing the wounded Moohootoo far below 0.
Maz unsheathed her bone club and smited the wounded Moohootoo, sending him to his fate 6 feet underneath the earth.
Ree is up next, and he decides to simply move away from line of sight. Hera is up next in initiative order. She moves up 30 feet around a fallen boulder and launches one of her daggers at the remaining Moohootoo. She is throwing her dagger at her max 10-foot increment, so she will not receive any increment penalty. A roll of 14 beats the Moohootoo's AC. And rolling 2 points of damage is enough to defeat this last Moohootoo and end the combat encounter.
In a haste, Hera leapt out from behind the fallen boulder and threw her flint dagger, hitting the Moohootoo in the chest and leaving him to bleed out alone in the dust. With their enemies slain, the 5 brave seekers gathered themselves. As soon as they did, they realized what was upon them. The entrance to the dark was open at last for their entry. They stood in awe as they found themselves in front of legend itself. What lay within these walls they did not know, but what they knew for certain was that they would risk their lives to find out and tell the tale. And that, my friends, is theater.
Alright, 6 saves. Let me get 6 saves. Yeah, I'm gonna roll for 6 saves. Yeah, I can totally get 6 saves. Let me get 6